All right, but one more thing, one more position, and probably the position that we definitely are focused on the most. We coupled it cornerbacks with safeties. Our secondary, and you mentioned Benjamin St. Juste. Great potential. We love what he brings to the table, but he can't stay on the field. We made that move in getting William Jackson III, and then we cut William Jackson III. That didn't plan out, but it seemed like with the younger guys and kind of the guys we had in house, the communication was getting better. We were working something out. This is somewhere we said if there's any positions that we're going to go for first round, if we keep that 16th pick, it's 2 slots: O-line, secondary.
Mm-hmm.
This is somewhere where I am absolutely. I'm ready to pick somebody up. I want to get somebody that's younger, that's quick, that has the ability. But I think one of the things it was your name on one of the shows we did, position flex. I think that is so key. We need to have more people that can do multiple things and do them well enough to be able to contribute. So I want somebody that could play corner. And if he could do it, that's great. And that's all his thing. That's fine. But I also want somebody that could potentially bring in safety, potentially move around and put in different slots. So, if we get a lockdown guy, obviously that's great. But I do want somebody that if he said, all right, I need you to play a nickel, I need you to play a safety, I need you to do it. Okay, cool. And they fit in the system. So What are you looking for out of this? And there's like 4 or 5 guys that could realistically fall to us. So what are you looking at, and who are you looking at?
Yeah, ultimately my dream scenario is I want an impact corner. I want a playmaker at corner. I can't remember the last time we had one. I'll go back to Champ Bailey, as the time we really had somebody that scared the other side, scared the opponent to like, do we want to even throw to this side of the field? I don't know if we've had good players since then. Sean Springs had a pretty good couple-year run with us. We've brought in guys. D'Angelo Hall had some. Yeah,
he had 4 interceptions in a game.
To Jay Cutler. Come on.
To the Bears.
Right, exactly. So it's like, we've had some good players, but I feel like we haven't been able to have that elite type corner. So that would be my ultimate goal there, and there's a couple of guys, the Devin Witherspoons, the Christian Gonzalez, is that if they fell to 16, you run up there as quickly as you can and turn in your card. Or now we do it by the phone. Oh, we got our pick. Here it is. Right. The minute the 15 pick is over with, you turn it right in, and you don't even think back to that. But
wait a minute. He's from Vandy. I forgot.
Sorry.
O-Town. Look, that was like one of his only good games, all right, Chris?
It was. Yeah, he really wasn't that impactful.
D'Angelo wasn't great.
No. But so in a sense, we're probably looking for other folks, some of the guys in the middle rounds or potentially a second round corner. So the first name I'm going to bring up, since I'm sure we have some of the same names. So this guy came to Ashburn and visited us. What do you think about Joey Porter Jr.? A lot of people are starting to mock him to us. What are your thoughts? Yeah, he's 6'2". He ran a 4.4 640. He's a press man. He's a ball hawk. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, pedigree. That's the first thing I think. Where does Dad play? Dad is a Steeler. Dad was a monster. And it. Hey, we've seen what Frank Gore Jr. is doing, and he's just like what his dad was. I think Joey Porter is going to give us that big, to talk about size, speed, ability, pro ready. This guy was super talented. We've seen what he brings to the table out of Penn State. I would, just like you said, run, not walk, not skip, not jog, run, sprint to the podium or to make the call and say, Joey Porter Jr., let's go. Now, obviously, all of our Pittsburgh fans ain't feeling that, but I absolutely would be all about that.
Interesting. I'm nervous.
Really?
And I'm not nervous about the player. I think he's going to be a fantastic pro. I'm nervous about, does he fit our scheme? I'm nervous that is he going to be William Jackson 2.0? A guy, because we don't play that as much press man. Or if he's a press man specialist, and we ask him to do zone, can he transfer over to that? Because William Jackson could not. But I also sit here and think about, okay, Jack Del Rio, what do you need to be doing? Do you need to be playing to the strengths of your players? But I also want us to be careful that if Kendall Fuller is going to be playing on the outside and Kendall Fuller is a zone corner, can you have a guy playing man opposite him? Is that causing too much stress in the defense? There. But if your plan is to move Kendall inside, or potentially there's rumors of, do we move him back to safety? Then I'm all for putting BSJ and Joey Porter on the islands and letting them use their size and physicality. Absolutely. If Jack Del Rio is willing to change that up that part of his scheme, yeah, I'm with you. You run with this pick in. Yeah. If he's not, I'm worried about, is he the right player for us? Yeah. And that has me very concerned.
I can see, and when you bring up that point about zone versus man, because that was absolutely the issue that we had. So it makes you wonder with some of these picks. A lot of these, the Witherspoons, Gonzalez, a lot of these guys have the speed, they have the ability, but are they all focused on? Are they all locked down type of guys? Because with me, obviously, it's been beaten over my head the last 2 years, but Kelee Ringo, 6'2", 207, and can run the 4.3. We've seen what he's been able to do in impact games. We've seen the kind of pedigree as far as the team that he's been on. I mean, it just guys sitting here chiseled, you know what I mean? Like stacked. I would love to take a shot at that. I mean, if he's there, I mean, I think that'd be a great pick. But it then goes back to what you're saying. Can these guys fit in the system? Because we saw with Chase Young, like we mentioned earlier, he's great for however great he was. He liked to do his little solo thing where it's just him running, doing his, and sometimes that made holes for the quarterback so that they can escape, and it was actually counterproductive for the rest of our line. So can they fall in? And so that's where I really want to. I hope Kelee Ringo could, because obviously being a part of that team, being a leader on that team over the last couple of years, I mean, that would be a great addition in my opinion. But like you make a great point.
Well, the only thing I say about Georgia corners that kind of gets me slightly nervous is a couple of years ago they had an absolute stud that the Giants drafted, and the name has mistaken me. And he was an absolute bust. Now it could have been attitude, it could have been the player versus their scheme. But one of the things with Georgia, they've got such a great defensive line. Are these corners benefiting by the fact that they don't have to cover for that long?
Exactly. And that was my argument over the last 2 years with Anthony Handy and Colin. It was that your D-line is amazing. Your linebackers are wreaking havoc on these quarterbacks. You're not really throwing deep until later in the ball game when the game is pretty much out of hand. You know what I mean? Like, what real competition we have? And they would go back to the national championship. You saw Kelee Ringo with the interception. Yeah. But we saw this past year, Ringo was getting torched on sometimes. They went after him, and some of these teams were able to get past him. So it does make you wonder, how good are some of these guys that are in the back end of this great defense?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I too, I was surprised when I saw the size of Ringo and his speed. I was like, oh, well, he's a lot more of that type of, I mean, you and I talk about it all the time. We love the Legion of Boom type corners, big, tall guys, long arms. Like, how else are you supposed to keep up with these receivers if you're not, big like that? So here we go, Sean. My guy, DBU, Maryland, Deonte Banks, 6'2", 205, 4.35 40. He has all the measurables that you would want. And there's a chance he could be, he probably will be there at 16, yes. Yeah. Is it possible if you trade down a little bit, is he there in the 20s as well? And are you able to get a starter or someone to groom as well as an additional pick if you were to trade back? Yeah. I don't know.
Do you take him? Would you take him at 16?
I think it depends on what offensive linemen are around there.
True. I don't know as much about him for me to say yes, I would or no, I would.
I don't think he'll be there in the second round, though. I'll say that.
That's true. That's true. So I'm thinking you're staying at home with your boy, the ball hawk, Mr. Tiny Tim, Cam Smith.
You want to talk about Cam Smith? Because guess what? I live right across from the high school that he played.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right. So my concern, and he's actually a zone corner, so that fits what we're looking for. Okay.
Yeah.
He also was a wide receiver as well in high school, so he's got ball skills, and he likes to bait the corner to thinking that your guy's open so that he can go make a play. Yeah. My only concern with him, the biggest concern would be size. I mean, he ran a 4.43, which it's sad that we're saying 4.43 might not be the fastest, to keep up with some of these guys. Like, come on.
Right.
But my concern might be his size in keeping with some of the receivers. And he steadily improved in South Carolina, but I can't tell you that I ever thought of him like I did Gilmore, where I was like, he's good over there. We're good over there. Like they threw deep on him. I'm like, okay, he made it. Okay, yeah. So I'm not in love with Cam Smith to say that I would want him like in the second round, to where I would rather get a Deonte Banks than Cam Smith if I'm having to get Banks in the first and Smith in the second.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned DJ Turner came to us. He's another guy that's 5'11", short, like under 180, like a tiny guy, but ran a 4.6 40. A 4.2 40. I mean, 4.2 6 40. Yeah, and it's like, I mean, dang, we might just have. I mean, and he might be another second round guy, or maybe if we went and traded back, something like that. But that speed, with the athleticism, with the ability, like you talked about Cam Smith playing his own. We have Turner that can come in there and also play safety. Like these are kind of the things that we're looking at. So I just not at 16 for me. But if what you're talking about happens and we either potentially trade back or in that second round and they're still available, yes, I think I would take a shot at one of those two. And just because the speed could be very helpful for us. And then, like you said, with Cam Smith, who played wide receiver, that's something to me that I think is going to help us with some of these guys. First and foremost, he's going to go up against Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel, and De'Ami Brown, if you're still there, every day in practice. You know what I mean? But then on top of that, then you're going to get out there and you're knowing when these guys are coming out of their breaks. It's instinctive, and that I really like. There wasn't a lot, and this, you can vouch for me. There wasn't a lot of positives earlier in the season for you guys when it came to what was going on. But one thing I always kept hearing was amid all the struggles, the ball hawk Cam Smith. He was sitting here making plays and still keeping that defense relevant and keeping them in there. But like you told me many a times, that's about all they got out there, with them. He's the only one showing up until later in the year when you guys caught fire. So right.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned DJ Turner. We mentioned Cam Smith. These all have guys that have some frames that we're a little bit concerned about. Here's another one that's getting mocked to us a lot. Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State, 5'11", 170 pounds if he's soaking wet out of the pool. But they also say he's a huge playmaker, and he has great instincts and playmaking ability. Dude is in 160 pounds. What are your thoughts, Sean?
Right. It's really hard for me. Well, you know what? I'll say this. When Devontae Smith won the Heisman and he came into the league, I honestly wanted to look like this because I thought that first hit was going to kill him. Yeah. I mean, he is tiny out there. But then on the flip side, you've seen what he's doing. I mean, he helped take his team to the Super Bowl. Like, I just feel like these guys have been playing against bigger guys, and that speed, you just can't. That's unmatched. I feel like I still, it's not going to stop me from looking in his direction. I'll say that. Okay. But at the same time, if I can get something bigger, if I can get something, a little more meaty, somebody that can, if he gets jammed, if he has to go up against DK Metcalf or AJ Brown the line, they're not just going to throw him to the side. And you know what I mean? Like, I need somebody that could take that first little bump or first little check and make some kind of impact on the receiver, so We'll see. I don't want a smaller guy. I'm like you. The speed is great, but I don't want a smaller guy.
Then why are you questioning Deonte Banks at 16? Then, if you want somebody with size who won't get
from Maryland, he went to Maryland. We know what people that went to Maryland did. I mean, they left the ACC because they couldn't handle Tar Heel Nation.
Oh my gosh!
Let's go, baby.
How many times do I have to say wide receivers and corners? Maryland produces them. They're not bad. Don't sleep on these guys. The other folks, yeah. By all means.
Do not let Maryland and North Carolina play somehow in a bowl this year because we're gonna go to both games. All right.
That'd be fun.
And
let's get the Belk Bowl going with that.
Let's go.
All right, so we're talking size here. I got someone for you.
Okay.
Julius Brents of Kansas State, 6'4", 202, but he runs a 4.53 40.
Ooh,
what are your thoughts on it? This guy's got the size, but can he run with people? I'd be curious what was Benjamin St. Juice's 40.
Yeah. What was his 40? I'm interested to see what he does. I didn't get a chance to see as much of him in college. I love his size.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, apparently, he's a pro prospect, pretty solid. I like it. I don't know that I would go first.
Oh gosh, no. These are probably second, third round picks.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely that way. I hate to say that I just don't have that much info on him. When I was looking at Kansas State, my main focus was looking at Deuce Vaughn, that running back.
Mm-hmm.
I think Martinez is that quarterback. I'm interested to see what he brings to the table. If we're talking just by the specs, just by the measurables, so I mean, like you said, 6'3", 200, 4.5 speed, like this is that's the type of size you definitely would want compared to the under 180. You want a guy that's bigger, it's got a little more meat on him. And hey, Kansas State shocked some teams, made it all the way to the Big 12 championship. So, he was part of that run. So I'd be interested to see. I would have to do a little bit more research on him to see what it is. But size, oh yeah. Oh, without a doubt. I love that size.
I know. There's another guy from Miami, Tyreek Stevenson. He's 6'2", 215. So it makes me wonder, can he also play, position flex with safety with that type of size? Obviously that's someone who can lay a little thumping on somebody. But I don't have any of the other notes on him, so I don't really know why I put him down there other than size. Is there anyone else that we haven't mentioned that you have your eyes on?
At safety, Sidney Brown out of Illinois, but a similar size. He's short at 5'10", but he's 211, 4.4 speed. You know what I mean? Very athletic for a safety. Press people with his speed, but more his explosiveness. And then you and I mentioned the size. Bigger guy, tougher guy, be able to jam up. And also he's one of those type of guys that if the ball gets up there, he can have that hit that will dislodge the ball from the receiver. And
or catch it. He led them in 6 picks this year.
We'll see. There you go. You know what I mean? But as far as size, that's definitely what I definitely like what he brings to the table.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Hold on here. I'm checking to see if my internet's going to go. Nope, it's looking good. You mentioned an Illinois safety, and they brought in his counterpart in for a visit, Jartavius Martin, because he can play corner and safety. He has position flex. He can also potentially play inside, which they would be interested in. So that could be someone that they would like. We kind of feel like, do we really need another safety? But if you've got someone who can play either position, that is a very valuable option.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Trey Dean will be there deep in the draft, in my opinion, out of Florida. Another size guy, 6'2", 200. Not as quick, but he's more fluid. He's one of those guys that, the transition from backpedaling to, making the break or doing that is it happens more naturally. A lot of quick feet. He can guard out on the perimeter or in the slot, and his speed definitely helps him with that. So I like that. They were that whole defense was struggled this year under Napier, but they had moments where they actually showed up, and Dean, I think, was one of those pieces to that puzzle. So that's at safety. So, but this is bigger guys. Just taking a look at some of these guys that we're looking at on here.
Yeah. Well, there's one other guy that I saw at safety, and it has a lot to do with position flex, and that's Jay Ward of LSU. He's
Okay.
6 foot. He didn't run the fastest 40, 4.55, but he played corner and safety for LSU, which I thought could be, obviously pretty helpful. But that speed does concern me a little bit with that. Is he going to be able to keep up? But he was, like you mentioned, the fact that he has some position flex is about the real reason why I was like, oh, okay, all right, I can see why there's some interest there.
Oh yeah. And what I've heard of, he's the one of those guys that's what's it called? This guy's really good ball skills. Like, knows how to make the play, jump up at the right time to get the ball. If it's up there in the secondary. So, hey. Again, we'll see, but there's so many guys here. There's so many guys.
It's so deep.
Yeah. And which is great because I feel like two, it's not, I feel like getting two, potentially three guys is not out of the question. You know what I mean? As far as two corners potentially, get a corner and a safety, something like that, where we need that. We absolutely need to bring more guys in here. And one other thing that I want to look at, we talked about Benjamin St-Juste. We talked about, there's Bud Curl was out for a while with his injury. I want to look at guys. Injuries they just happen randomly. It's no rhyme or reason to it sometimes. But I want to look at guys that don't have that injury history. We have really been hit by the injury bug over the last several years. And we've seen that's really played a huge role in our success or lack of success. So I really want to see, again, this is no rhyme or reason, but I really want to see if these guys are I want healthier guys that may not have had that injury before. I mean, I look back at RG3, he had I know at least one of his knees was blown out in college.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we saw that up there. So that's, and albeit, I don't think it wasn't the same knee. I think it was the other knee that,
right.
Yeah. So, you can't say you saw that stuff coming, but still it's in the back of your mind. Let's just look at that. That's just my 2 cents on that little part right there.
There's a lot of teams that put up those red flags too, just like you said, and go, nah, I don't want to, if I have to choose between A or B, I'm going to choose B instead, as a result of it.
Well, we look out Nakobe Dean. I mean, you see how far he dropped last year, all the way to the third round, and Philly got him in the steal because of the injury. So,
was he a steal? Did he play?
That's the thing. I mean, they would have, by the way he was projected, they would have said it was a steal. But I mean, we haven't seen what he's done on the actual field,
and we may see him this year. I think they lost TJ Edwards, and so you may actually. I think they lost. Who was the other linebacker that they lost? Kaiser White. I think he went elsewhere too. So now you actually may get to see if they got the steal. All right, so I'm gonna kind of put us on the spot here, especially with corners, because that seems to be where that position has a lot of depth here.
Yeah.
First round, second round, later rounds. Give me some names in the first round that you would be okay with at 16.
At 16, obviously this guy won't be there, but if Weatherspoon was there, I would pick him up. My first guy is Christian Gonzalez. I love his speed. I love his size. I mean, I love what he brings to the table. I've watched him this year. So that was my first pickup. But if I got Devin Witherspoon, I would not have an issue with it. You and I mentioned the Porters and the Ringos. That would, for me, if we traded back, I would get them first. But for me, I might take my chances on it, on seeing if they're still around. And a lot of this, like you said, has to do with the line and the O-line and if they're going to be here. Turner is somebody I'm looking at for second, third round. City Brown, I was talking to you about that. A lot of these guys, honestly, I want to go early. I want to get some of these guys, the top guys, pick them up early. I talked to you about this last year. I was extremely bummed when we missed out on getting Kyle Hamilton. I thought he could have been an X factor for us in the defense last year. So I want to really go after one of these guys early and get a primetime player off the board, bring him into Washington, and let's start him training out right now. So I want one of those top tier guys early if we don't go line. Ringo and Cam Smith, DJ Turner, some of those guys, if, either we trade back or maybe early second and they're still around.
Right.
And then we'll see what happens later on down the line.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you. If I had my choices besides saying like Christian Gonzalez falls to us, I think I'd rather see us go corner in the first round, because I feel like in the second and third, there's a chance there to get an interior offensive lineman will be there that can plug and play as a starter. And like you said, there's a chance to get a more impactful DB on. So I'm kind of with you with some of those names. I'll throw my Maryland guy in there and say if they draft him in the first round, sure,
of course,
I'll be happy. And if they are able to trade back and get him, then I'd be even more happier. You kind of talked me a little bit more into Cam Smith about maybe not being so concerned if that happened in the second round. But I am with you. Size concerns me, and if I don't know, I just got shades to remember Fred Smoot in his early on just being thrown to the ground by wide receivers trying to tackle him or trying to tackle him. He's like, get out of my way.
he can talk better than anybody. The mouth
from the south,
without a doubt,
right.
Without a doubt. But yeah, it didn't take it. It's like that little gnat. Just get off me, like
right, exactly.
He was tidy with it. So
yeah. I don't know. I might have to say, like, if they're willing to change the defense around, I could get really excited about Joey Porter Jr. if they're willing to change the defense.
But I'm glad you made that point, because that plays a big part in, because we were really excited when we got William Jackson III last year. Mm-hmm. And then once we realized kind of how scheme and everything was working, that he wasn't fitting. And mind you, it was, for him, we seen it was a communication thing. It was, he wasn't talking or he wasn't on the same page, but he was completely blowing coverages and everything.
Yeah.
So maybe us getting these guys in early and having off season with them and working with them, and they're younger. You know what I mean? It's one thing if you've been at one place and then now you're coming to another place. You know how they did it here. Now, you're switching up. With these guys coming in, maybe they're going to jump on board to what we got going on. So, yeah. With it.
I hear you.